Back now to the story we mentioned at the top of the hour. There was some very powerful testimony this morning in front of a gun violence task force in Hartford, Connecticut. It came from a man named Mark Mattioli, who lost his son James in the December 14th school massacre at Sandy Hook Elementary. He spoke passionately about his son, the shooting, the issue of mental health, and how he thinks that more gun laws may not provide all the answers we need. Now, he spoke, we're told, for about 10, 15 minutes, so we've actually called the highlights from that. Watch here.
I think there's much more promise for a solution in identifying, researching, and creating solutions along the lines of mental health issues. I think there is a lot of work that can be done there, and I applaud our friends, the Richmonds, who are forging a path down that road. I believe these issues, especially gun violence, are not as complex as you've been told. There's been a lot on TV, a lot of politicians telling you the way that it is, and it's very difficult, complex. I don't believe it's so complex. I believe the solution may not be as easy to implement as I might hope, but it's a simple concept. We need civility across our nation. What we're seeing are symptoms of a bigger problem. This is a symptom. The problem is not gun laws. The problem is a lack of civility. So I'm 42. When I was 25 years ago, I was allowed to go see an R-rated movie. The violence that I saw in that movie paled in comparison to what you see on TV today. Just normal TV, 14-year-olds are out there watching Law & Order SVU and NCIS, and it's just disgusting. We need civility across our nation. We need common decency to prevail. When I was about James's age, he was 6. Let me change the subject for a moment. So our school, I'm very proud of Sandy Hook. Our school is not a building. It's the teachers, the parents, the students. We have some core values. I encourage you to visit the website. Cultivating character. Okay? We as parents, that's our primary job. We ask the schools to, contribute to that. But we are the primary caregivers and educators. And Sandy Hook is a wonderful example. Okay, back to me at age 6. My mom took me to the grocery store, and my parents are the children coming out of the Depression, so they're not big on entertaining impulse purchases. So I asked for a pack of bubble gum, and my mom said no, so I stole it. Well, that did not go over well when my mother discovered this as we pulled into our driveway. She drove back to the store, made me hand the gum back to the cashier and apologize and say that I would never do it again. That is the type of parenting we need. Parenting is where we need to focus our attention. We do not need complex laws. I am a big proponent of individual accountability and enforcement. So if there are going to be laws, we should enforce them. What I would say is Chicago has some of the toughest gun laws in the country, and I would say to people who wanted to have a civil discussion on the topic, I don't think the gun laws are protecting the people, let alone the 500 who perished last year in that city. What have those laws done to make Chicago a safer city? Nothing, I propose. Can't we do better? Yes. Criminals, by definition, break the law. What we experienced in Sandy Hook, did they break the law? Of course they broke the law. These 500 individuals who were killed in Chicago, they're breaking the law. Is one more law? I don't care if you named it James's Law. I don't want it. I think we have more than enough on the books. We should hold people individually accountable for their actions, and we should enforce laws appropriately. And I would say we're not currently enforcing them appropriately.
That poor father. You can just imagine. I mean, it's been just barely a month since his son was murdered in his first grade classroom. Little James Mattioli dead at age 6. Joining me now, Brad Blakeman, the former deputy assistant to President George W. Bush, and Julie Roginski, who's a Fox News contributor and former political advisor to New Jersey Senator Frank Lautenberg. Wow. Just your reaction, Brad, to what a powerful voice.
A powerful, reasoned, common sense approach from a man who has everything to be bitter about, but he wasn't bitter at all. I'm a victim of gun violence. I was almost kidnapped when I was 18. We had a shootout up at our house. The two guys who perpetrated the crime against me and my mom, they didn't have legal guns. But my position on gun control is the same as Mr. Mattioli. He has a much harder cross to bear. He lost his son James. I'm here. But a caution, reasoned, common sense approach to gun control is where America should be. We have enough laws, and he's right. We don't have the kind of enforcement we need. And also he spoke to mental health. The people who perpetrate these crimes are mentally ill in most cases. They're beyond criminal. They're mentally ill, and they should be treated as such, and we should get them the help they need before they act out.
You know, Julie, if nothing else, does this just add an important new voice to the debate? Because so many who are in favor of gun control have been somewhat dismissive of the other side and their motives. You know, even the president has suggested that those who gin up fears about this are after ratings or revenue. That's not what this guy's after.
No, and quite honestly, I'm having a hard time trying to keep it together right now because as a mom and as I just, I have all the respect in the world for this man 6 weeks after the biggest tragedy that could possibly happen to a father, to go out there and to say what he said. I respect it. I don't necessarily agree with everything that he said, but far be it from me or for anybody who hasn't walked in his shoes to criticize anything that he's saying. Look, there's nothing to be said other than he makes very good points about civility. Unfortunately, I'm not sure that you can regulate civility. These kinds of tragedies happen, and then people kind of move on and go back to the status quo of what it used to be. I happen to believe we do need some more sensible gun laws. For example, universal background checks, which even the majority of NRA members support. I think those are a good idea. But look, he's right that we need to discuss these civilly. And again, far be it for me or for any of us to even comprehend what this man has been going through in the past 6 weeks.
I mean, you saw some other parents from Newtown backing the president, Brad, last week, and even the president flanked by children when he made his gun control announcement. And yet, Mark Mattioli reminds us that there are entirely reasonable people who are hurting directly as a result of horrific gun violence who see this issue a very different way.
Absolutely. And he didn't get up on a soapbox and try and proselytize his views based on his own personal experience with the death of his son James. Quite the contrary. He laid out a good case, better than anybody I've heard so far, as to how we should approach the problem of gun violence in America. It should be, yes, civil, but it also should be factually based. And we have enough laws on the books now if we chose to execute on those laws and make them in word what they mean in action. And he gave a powerful demonstration today at that hearing. I hope that a lot of people not only see it, but read his testimony, and that something is done proactively in the line of his response, that we're not going to go willy-nilly like they've done in the Senate with the senator's bill from California. That, it's amazing to me that the senator could get a bill on gun control, yet they can't seem to get their act together on a budget. It's a knee-jerk reaction.
Or just mental
reactionary.
health. I mean, you heard him, Julie, talk about mental health.
Yeah.
First of all, he said at the end, criminals by definition break the law. Is one more law the answer? And he was asking about mental health.
Well, I wrote a column actually for FoxNews.com a few weeks ago about an aunt that I had who was incredibly mentally ill, and the point that I was making was that she would be able to go to a gun show and purchase a gun of any kind without any kind of background check. And so I was saying that essentially what you need are these universal background checks at places like gun shows and among private sales to ensure that mentally ill people would not be able to get their hands on a gun. Now, in the case of Sandy Hook, unfortunately, this was not a gun that the killer purchased. His mother purchased it, so he would have gotten his hands on it anyway. But if we are talking about mental health and about people who are mentally ill having access to guns. We need to make it much, much more difficult for
Don't
them
we need to make it
be able
much,
to do that.
much more easy for them to get help and for them to get into a
You're
system?
100% right. I'm not disagreeing with you on that at all. But if we're talking about
But where is the focus on that? Where is the focus on that?
Listen, we should have focus on it. You're not going to get a disagreement from me.
No,
from
it's
that
like a
at
back
all.
of the hand thing. I'm
Well,
not
it's
just
not.
blaming President Obama. I see no politicians taking the lead on
No,
this.
and I'll tell you this. I mean, the problem is that we've had these sort of privacy concerns over the past several decades about saying we can't share data or we can't force people into mental health treatment. Of course we can. People who
Of
are
course we can.
generally
We used to
mentally...
do it all the time.
We can do it and we should do it. People who are genuinely, a danger to society, absolutely we
Yeah.
should. And you're right about that.
Yep. Listen, thank you both so much
Thank
for being
you.
here for Reaction.
Thanks.
We appreciate it.